Hello, welcome to episode 4 of Road to the Draft with me, your host, Mick McGivern, as I take you through what's going on in the draft world at the moment. We've all been busy doing what you say. You know what we were doing? We were busy winning the fucking Super Bowl. That's what we were doing. So now it's draft season. The season's officially over. Eagles Super Bowl champions. But now what? There's no off season. There's no such thing as an off season. The season ends and it's draft season. Well, and we'll also get free agency to pick up in between there as well. So there's a lot going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. The guys, Phil, Liam, Tony, they're going to take a break for a couple of weeks. They've been ploughing hard all season, giving you weekly podcasts, game reactions, all that sort of good stuff. I'm here just to sort of pick up the pieces and do some draft analysis, speak about some prospects as we have been doing the previous few episodes. Same format. We'll go over the current picks that the Eagles own at the moment. Speak a little bit about the combine, some top 30 visits, and then I'll go on to 3 prospects that we could see in Midnight Green come the end of April. So, without further ado, as Liam would say, adieu. Eagles 2025 draft picks are as follows. And these are now set in stone as the season's now over. The 32 overall pick belongs to the Philadelphia Super Bowl champions. Don't forget that one. Oh! We have a second round pick at 64 overall. We have a third round pick at 96 overall. Fourth round pick at 129 overall. And 3 fifth round picks at 162, 166, and 169. Now, I don't imagine the Eagles will be picking all 3 of those fifth round picks. I think they will be packaged in some form or another in a trade up, trade down, trade future. But I would be very surprised if the Eagles stay fast and pick at 162, 166, and 169 with those 3 fifth round picks. They just look like little draft bullets that Howie is about to load. So that's our draft picks. It's not changing, but if it does, I'll let you know in the next episode. Moving swiftly on to the NFL Combine. So the Combine starts on Monday, or this coming Monday, the 24th of February. It runs all week through till Sunday, the 2nd of March. Typically, the action will all start on Thursday with the arrivals, the registrations, the meetings, the interviews, all the sort of boring stuff that no one really cares about. Is staggered from Monday through Wednesday as players arrive in their various position groups. So what you will be interested in, if you do want to tune into it, you want to watch some prospects run a 40 time or do their high jumper, do their shuttle cones and lift some weights and all this sort of stuff, and people get overexcited about guys lifting weights, if that's your thing. And then on Thursday, it starts on Thursday with the defensive line and the linebackers. On Friday, we'll have the defensive backs and the tight ends. On Saturday, we'll have the running backs, quarterbacks, and the wide receivers. And we'll finish on Sunday with the big meaty boys in the O-line. So Thursday, defensive line, lineback. Thursday, defensive line and lineback. Friday, defensive back and tight end. Saturday, running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers. Sunday, defensive line. So that's your combine. We'll speak a bit more about the combine in next week's episode. Who did well, what we're impressed by, who didn't do so well. It's sort of like the Senior Bowl in a way, where prospects will make money and lose money depending on their performance at the combine. Although I think a lot of people put a bit too much draft stock in what happens at the combine. You can get a little bit caught short. Like if someone runs a ridiculous 40 time, but they've not been too productive in college, well, yeah, he can run, but can't fucking catch. So he's no good to you. But there's certain position groups you do like to look at the athleticism. You do like to see the numbers at least hit the median. Not too far out, but you know, if players run a really impressive 40, or their 10 split is explosive for, like, say a defensive end or a defensive tackle, that can shoot them right up draft boards. And equally it can shoot them right down. But we'll go over that probably in next week's episode. I mean, we've seen this over the years. Jordan Davis had a ridiculous 10 split and 40 time, I think, for his position group, for his size, and it made people stand up and take notice. And the Eagles were one of them. So we'll cover the combine a little bit more in depth next week. Top 30 visits. So the top 30 visits will be starting post combine. And what is a top 30 visit? So just to briefly cover that, it's every team in the league is allowed to bring in up to 30 draft prospects to their respective facilities to evaluate what doesn't show up on the tape, essentially. So like attitude, IQ, their personality, and they also get a chance to do independent medical examinations, things that maybe don't show up in the medical reports. Maybe they've been hiding an injury, or they didn't quite know that they had an injury. That'll all come up in the team facility. They get to do their own scouting, and they get to meet the players, talk to the players, find out what they're all about. Find out if they have that desire in them. They love football. They'll go fight for every 50-50 ball. They'll fight for every inch on the line of scrimmage for the team, for the game. Or if it's just a guy that's kind of casual, yeah, I don't think the Eagles will go for that type of player, and that's why interviews like this are so vital, so important. I mean, Nick Sirianni himself preaches this all through the season, and the whole Super Bowl run. He spoke about team culture and togetherness. And with as long as he's head coach, I think that's going to be a vital part of the draft process, is to get these players in who love the game, maintain that locker harmony as well, and like assess them for team fit as well as what they can do on the field, but equally as much off the field. We've seen the combine interview with Jalen Hurts. That didn't come out for years later, which makes it so difficult for people who really like the draft and are interested in the draft, interested in prospects, watch all the college season, they watch the college film, they listen to draft podcasts, you do their mock drafts on PFF or whatever a mock draft machine that they might use. They read mock drafts. They're just fully immersed in it, but they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They don't hear the player interviews. They don't know what these guys are like, and that can push guys up the board and it can drop guys down the board. That's the fun of the draft, really. That's why I love it anyway. But the Eagles put a lot of investment into these top 30 visits, and recent history tells us this, how important it is in the draft prospect and the drafting process, I should say. Selecting 4 from 2024 NFL drafts, we had Cooper DeJean, we had Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson, and Jalix Hunt all in the NovaCare complex prior to the draft. We interviewed these guys, and lo and behold, we took them. Quinyon Mitchell, I think we interviewed him in the combine. I'm not entirely sure if we had him at the NovaCare or not, but we definitely had Terry and Arnold, and we definitely had Kool-Aid McKinstry in the top 30 visits. So if we had the other 2 top cornerback prospects from that draft, if you cast your mind back, those were the 3. I'm pretty sure we would have interviewed Quinyon Mitchell as well, if I'm not mistaken. And even if you look another year back from that, there's 4 prospects from 2023 from our 7 overall selections. So over half of our selections were top 30 visit candidates. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo, and Tyler Steen all visited the team's facilities before draft night. So we'll keep an eye on those top 30 visits, speak a bit more about them as they filter through, have a look at who they are, what they're all about, and hopefully we'll see a few of them in Midnight Green come the end of April. All right, so I might as well just get into the prospects, Mick. Start talking about prospects, talking about rubbish. I will do in just a moment. I'm going to take a little break, and then we'll get into the 3 prospects that have been selected, not by me this time, So the last few episodes I've done of this, I've selected them myself in various draft positions, not necessarily looking at the first round. But for this episode, I thought, let's look at 3 prospects that have been chosen for us by NFL draft analysts throughout the league. So I've chosen 3, Sports Illustrated, The Athletic, and Daniel Jeremiah, Mock Draft 2.0. So I'm going to go into those 3 prospects, speak a little bit about them, but they're all first round prospects who the Eagles would be taking at pick number 32. Just a reminder, pick number 32, Super Bowl champs.
Celebrate victories, rally through challenges, and bond with fellow fans as you toast with a dram of Loch Lomond single malt whisky. From tailgating gatherings to watch parties at home, Loch Lomond whisky becomes an essential companion, enhancing the moments that make football so extraordinary. It's the perfect accompaniment, from the joy of victory to the bittersweet moments of defeat. Loch Lomond offer a wide range of malts, with their flagship perfectly balanced, and signature expressions Inchmoan and Inchmuren to suit any taste palate. Celebrate greatness on and off the field this season with a perfect balance of Loch Lomond whisky and Eagles football. From the first pour to the crowd roar. Fly Eagles fly.
Hey, it's nice to hear my own voice back. So, prospect number 1, and this is a selection from Daniel Jeremiah in his latest mock draft for the NFL. Selection, I should say, Malaki Starks, safety from the University of Georgia. Where else would the Eagles be drafting from if the University of Georgia? Daniel Jeremiah had this to say. He said, the Eagles add another versatile piece of the secondary in Starks, who joins the Georgia North All-Stars in Philadelphia. Now, when I first saw this selection, I raced down to number 32. I don't care who the other teams are taking at this point. I'm just so eager to find out our guys. Raced down to number 32, Georgia. I'm like, that's a bit lazy. I just feel like it's lazy. But then I really got thinking about it. I had a look up his mock draft and where he had taken guys, and it just so happened that Malaki Starks fell to this position. I mean, safety isn't the most premium position that is apparent in the NFL. Safeties don't typically get drafted a lot in the first round. I know Kyle Hamilton did. That was in the mid-teens, only a couple of years ago, and he's now like an all-pro level safety. He's generational talent. Malaki Starks is sort of spoken about in that sort of way, similar to like Caleb Downs of OSU, who's still in college at the moment. He's for next year's draft or possibly the year after. Can't remember if he's a sophomore or junior next year. I think he's a sophomore next year. But Malaki Starks, he's like been the 5-star the 5-star recruit coming out of high school, highly sought after, winds up on a generational Georgia Bulldogs defense, wins a national championship in his freshman year, sort of thing. He made 14 starts in his freshman year, and he was first team freshman All-American. Again in 2023, he made the first team All SEC. 2024, same. The guy is he just has that. He's that caliber of player who is just exciting to watch, and his floor is so high as well. He would be an excellent addition to this Eagles team, to this Eagles defense, and in part due to his versatility, but also how just excellent he is as an all-round player. I tried to go through my good, bad, and damn right sexy for each individual of these players, and I really found it difficult to come up with a bad for Malaki Starks. I think he's just a wonderful player. PFF have him number 6 overall on their big board. Is just like players, like positional value is taken out of it. Number 6 on PFF's big board is huge. And you may not put too much stock into PFF and say what you like about them. I use them when it suits me to use them. But I do remember that Cooper DeJean was 8th overall on PFF's big board last year, and he fell all the way at the second round till the Eagles drafted up, took him. He makes a pivotal pick 6 on his birthday in the Super Bowl. You can't make that up. And it's going to be one of these things again. If Malaki starts to fall in the draft, people just see him dwindling down the draft board, and how he's just going to go, you know what? I'm going to press my fucking speed dial to the Athens and and pick up the Georgia Bulldog, and everyone is going to say, "How did Howie do it again?" That's what it's going to be if the Eagles do indeed take Malaki Starks at 32 overall. But he's a quick read and react player. That's the good about him. Quick read and react. He can play as the deep safety. He can come down to the box. He's got a high football IQ. The bad, I was really searching for, find something that I didn't quite like about him. He tends to get a little bit lost in traffic sometimes. Playing in sort of coming down as a sort of nickel position, tends to get a little bit lost in traffic. But I mean, we've got like Fangio. He could train pretty much anyone to. No, definitely not. The damn right sexy for this one. He's an excellent tackler, such a sure tackler, and I love that about a defensive back. The worst thing you can have in a defensive back is that he can't tackle, right? This guy has the lowest in the nation missed tackle percentage rate for a safety. According to PFF, his tackling grade is 84.3, and he's got a run defense grade of 85.6. So that this guy is a sure tackler. He gets guys on the ground and he makes sure they're down. He's a hard tackler, hard hitter. Very versatile player. He's got that sideline to sideline speed as well, and he can diagnose plays in an instant. So Malaki Starks, I'd love to see him in midnight green. It'd be an interesting pick because it really feels that this draft is really geared towards the line of scrimmage this year. We didn't go that way so much in last year's draft. Of course, we took 2 defensive backs in the first 2 picks last year. We took Quinio Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Did we go in for another defensive back? And we spoke about that last week with Jahdae Barron from the University of Texas. But this is a sort of similar discussion. Or do we wait in the draft and maybe pick up a second rounder, someone like Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, who we spoke about in episode 1, or someone of that ilk? But it would be an interesting selection for sure. Prospect number 2, Nic Scourton from Texas A&M. He is a defensive end, 6'4", 285 pounds, selected by Sports Illustrated's Daniel Flick at 32 overall for the Eagles. I've seen Nic Scourton go all over the board so far over draft season. I think he was one of the best defensive ends coming into this year's college football season. He was like one of the ones to watch, like defensive end 1, 2, 3, one of the top 3 defensive ends possibly coming into this class. He didn't have the best year in the Aggies defense, I wouldn't say, but I think the Aggies struggled a bit this year. They found it really difficult to sort of kickstart their season. They sort of struggled earlier on, but they got into it more as the season went on, and Nic Scourton was a part of that. He was a 4-star recruit coming out from high school, and also played basketball in high school as well. So he does have quite a bit of athleticism about him. He committed to University of Purdue in the Big Ten, played all 14 games in his freshman year. In his sophomore year, he made second team All Big Ten, and he led the Big Ten in sacks with 8 on the season and 42 pressures and a 21.2% win rate on his pass rush, which was huge. And after that season, he transferred to Texas A&M from Purdue. They were building quite a scary looking defensive line, Texas in Texas A&M for 2024, which never really I feel like it didn't completely gel together, and that was what the problem was. There's quite a few Aggies players in this draft, quite a few defensive linemen as well that we may or may not talk about over the coming weeks. But Nic Scourton's one of them. He's been really hard to place in terms of draft, but I don't think I've ever seen him fall out the first round. So I think this is a good selection for the Eagles, and it's definitely a position I need. I spoke about it, I think last episode or the episode before, but edge is going to be a massive need. Like Brandon Graham, he said he might stick on for another season, but let's face it, like why would you stay on for another year? He climbed the mountain, came back from a season-ending injury somehow to come on the field for the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's the fairy tale ending. Brandon, I'd love 55 to play another season because I love him. He's one of my favourite players. But I feel like it's over for him, and if it isn't, and he does come back, it's still going to be at reduced snaps. Nolan Smith is on the easy for me to say, can't say it. You know what I'm talking about. But Nolan Smith is getting better and better and better as the season was going on. We get Tyleik Hunt waiting in the wings. Bryce Huff is absolutely useless. I don't expect him to be even on the roster next year, but we'll see what sort of magic how he can conjure during the off season and trade him out, hopefully, or we'll see what Vic Fangio can do with him if he can turn him into something else. Turn him from a pumpkin into a princess Huff. But it's a position I need. We're going to need these guys on the edge. Josh Sweat's a free agent. He had such a great Super Bowl. He had 2.5 sacks in the Super Bowl. We need to replace those sacks. So we need to replace that production. Nic Scourton's got the pressure rate. He's had the production when he was played in the Big Ten. 2024 in Texas A&M, still made the first team All SEC. He wasn't a bad player. He just had a little bit of a less productive year than he did the previous in Purdue in 2023. Still had 4 sacks on 36 pressures. So what I like about him, he's got such a thick build. See if you watch any of his clips or any of his tape, he's got such a thick build. He looks quite round almost, but not in a fat way. You can just tell he's like thicker built. He plays with a lot of power, but he also has a bit of sneaky agility as well and sneaky patience as well in the line of scrimmage. Gets into the backfield consistently and solid against the run. The one thing I didn't really like about him is he lacks a bit of bend, so I don't think you're going to see him bending around a lot of offensive tackles. It just doesn't seem to be his game. And for the damn right sexy, and you'll see this if you load up any of his clips. It's his spin move. He's got a sick spin move. It is absolutely beautiful to watch. I think he put it on Will Campbell, the tackle out of LSU, is predicted to be tackle 1 in this coming draft, of probably a top 10 pick. And he gave him a hard time when A&M played LSU just this season. So he can do it against the best. He played in the SEC. The opposition is supposed to be the highest in the SEC, as we're supposed to believe. So again, Nic Scourton, 32 overall. Wouldn't mind that one bit. I think he would be a valuable addition to the Eagles. And last but not least, Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle from Ohio State, 6'3", 327 pounds. That's a meaty boy. Selected by Athletic beat writers. So the Athletic beat writers did a first round mock draft. The notes on the mock draft said that they would have rather to have traded back, but because of the exercise that they were doing, they had to make the selection at 32. And when they did, they took Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State. He's a sort of run-stuffing interior defensive lineman. As you can tell, 327 pounds. He's going to be a run-stuffing nose tackle, someone that's going to play over centre. He doesn't have a lot of... he doesn't have production in the pass rush, so it feels like, is this a Jordan Davis replacement type thing? The Athletic sort of wrote it as like they'd written the piece as like as if it was a Milton Williams replacement, but that's not Milton Williams' game at all. And Milton Williams is actually undersized for the defensive line. He's definitely not a nose tackle, and I'd love to keep him Big Milt. I don't know if we will. He's going to cost a lot of money. He played his socks off. He had the strip sack in the Super Bowl. The boy's good, and it's going to cost a lot to keep him. But maybe he runs it back. Maybe Howie can do some magic. But if he doesn't, the Athletic has chosen Tyleik Williams. I've got to say, I'm not overly enthusiastic about this pick. I don't think it's a great pick. I wouldn't necessarily have chosen this one myself. I would like to see who was still on the board. I didn't go through the 1 to 32 on the whole article. I did this quite quickly. I just thought I had to get a draft pod out this week, and I looked at the Athletic, and this is what came up. But he's ranked number 40 overall on the PFF big board. This isn't a bad player. This, Tyleik Williams is a very good player. It's just if that's the need, if that's what you need him to do, if you need a run stopping nose tackle, this is your guy. Do we need that? In a way, yes, we do. But at 32 overall in the first round, do we need that? I mean, that's sort of what we drafted Jordan Davis for, albeit that was like the 18th pick or something like that in the first round. Many people may say he was overdrafted, and we're not sure if we're going to pick up Jordan's fifth-year option at this point because that cost is calculated on league average for the position group. It doesn't count the 3 or 4 highest paid in the position group because that would skew the figures like drastically. So it's something like the median between the 4th highest defensive tackle and the 50th highest defensive tackle, and they take a range value in between there, and they factor in playing time. So the money goes up depending on the amount of snaps that they've taken, and the money goes up depending if they've made any Pro Bowl selections or multiple Pro Bowl selections. Over the cap at the moment projects the cost of Jordan Davis's 5th-year option to be around 11.4 million, because he doesn't meet any of the criteria for the play time or the Pro Bowls because he's typically not always on the field. He plays a limited amount of snaps. But our run defense is absolutely lights out. So I mean, I'm not here shitting on Jordan Davis. I think he's a great player. I loved it when we drafted him. I was very excited about him when we drafted him. As I recall, again, another selection from the University of Georgia. And he has been a great player for us. I'm just not sure that the Eagles are going to pick up his 5th-year option, whether or not we choose to replace that at pick 32. Not for me. Just not for me. But if we did decide to trade back into the second round, would I be happy to then take Tyleik Williams? Potentially. It depends on what it would look like, who the trade partner was, and what the package would look like if we were gaining another top 100 pick or something like that in either this year's draft or next year's draft. It could be something to look at, especially if the talent level isn't quite there as you sit at 32 if we haven't traded up by that point. So I'm not going to say a whole lot more about Tyleik Williams. As I said, 2022 played 12 games, mostly rotational. 2023, 13 games, 12 starts, made second team All Big Ten. 2024, he made the third team All Big Ten, albeit national champion. Ohio State won the national championship. Is it sour grapes for me because I'm a Notre Dame fan and we lost the national championship? No, it's not. I promise it's not. There's lots of Ohio State players that I like. In fact, I previewed one last week. So it's definitely not biased on my part. It's just not for me for this selection, unfortunately. Whoever writes for The Athletic these days, I don't follow anymore since Bo and since Zach Berman and Bo left The Athletic for PHLY. And I think a lot of people are the same, actually. So that's our 3 prospects. I did say I was going to answer some questions from the group as well as part of this podcast. I should have mentioned that at the start of the podcast, but I forgot conveniently. So we'll dive straight into that and then we'll finish the podcast out. So this one is from Rich. Are the Eagles best to sit at 32 or trade down and pick ammo? So that just follows on from the discussion that we sort of just had about Tyleik Williams. I think it vastly depends on who's on the draft board. If Malaki Starks sitting at 32, sit at 32 and take him. If Tyleik Williams is sitting at 32, trade down and pick up ammo. I mean that's it seems like a cop out answer, but the Eagles are in a really good position where the roster is so loaded that we've got BPA. We went from BTA, belt to ass, to BPA, best player available. That is what the drafting philosophy could and should be for this upcoming 2025 draft, because we're not going to be reaching for any players. We don't need to do that. There's some free agency stuff that we have to sort out beforehand, and that may dictate what we do in the draft. If we do lose Milton Williams, we'll be looking at the defensive line a bit more, closely. I think that could definitely play into it, but I don't think how he's going to reach for it. Again, this is a very deep defensive line class. There was something like this is the most defensive linemen that have been invited to the NFL Combine ever, I think. So that shows you the depth of talent that is on the defensive line. That's the edge and the defensive interior in this draft. So hope that answered that question. Next one is from Ross. You or Howie McRoseman? Hold on, hit myself in the head with a cannon. I bleed for this city. How are you approaching the draft with needs, tight end, O-line, DL? All big needs in some shape or form. Yeah. I'd be surprised if we didn't go in the line of scrimmage in this one, as I said, because we took 2 defensive backs in the first 2 rounds in last year's draft, and how he likes to build from the trenches. And positions of needs, like I said, we may lose Mekhi Becton on the offensive line this year. He may stay, who knows. Lane's going to stay on for another couple of years, but you might want his replacement in sooner rather than later. Maybe they can play beside him, do a sort of Cam Jurgens to Kelsey transition over maybe 1 or 2 years before Lane hangs it up. You don't want to bring in a rookie fresh and then just throw him in at right tackle. Lane's not even there to give him advice and help him through his rookie season. Tight end, yeah, I think tight end is actually a big need for the Eagles, but again, I don't think the position warrants a first round selection. I don't think Howie would go for that. If I'm Howie McRoseman, I won't go for that. I think this is a quite deep tight end class. I quite like Arroyo from Miami, who should be somewhere in the second round. I like Gunnar Helm, who should be around third round selection, maybe fourth round selection. Yeah, like if one of the big tight end talents falls down the board, like a Colson Loveland, is that the same discussion that we had with Malaki Starks? Do you take him because he's the best player available? I don't think Tyler Warren's going to fall to 32. I'd be shocked to my core if Tyler Warren falls to 32 overall. But if Colson Loveland did from Michigan. I keep saying he's from Ohio. I don't know why. I said it in another episode as well, and I kicked myself a day later. From Michigan, if he fell to 32, it's an interesting one. Like pass catchers are so premium in the league. Tight ends are quite valuable, especially the way we deploy tight ends and how important Dallas Goedert is for this team and how important he's been, but he needs to be available, and that's the problem with him. And I think we could potentially move on from Dallas Goedert this year, so I think that could happen, but I think his replacement shouldn't be in the first round. It should be probably in a later round, either somewhere in the third, fourth rounds, possibly even the fifth round, because there's guys all over this draft class, in my opinion. Third and final question from Rich again. Should the Eagles prioritise defensive end, defensive tackle, or Lane's successor? I feel like I've already sort of answered that question in the previous question. So I think, yeah, there's definitely going to prioritise the line of scrimmage. Lane successor may or may not come this year. I don't think it's going to come this year. I don't think it's an overly great tackle class, but Coach Stoutland can turn a third round tackle selection. We talked about Emory Jones Jr. from LSU a couple of weeks ago as well. He would be like a third or fourth round pick. You could potentially, kick him into guard for a year and then eventually take over for Lane if he plays well, or we just sit on it for another couple of years, knowing that Lane's got that island covered for the next few years to come. We're in good hands. We're in good hands, folks. Right, so I'm going to end the podcast here. Thank you very much, and God bless.